A fifth potential bias is sampling error. This is the difference between the sample results and the true population results. This is unavoidable and due to the fact that samples are different from each other. As an example, if you flip a coin 100 times, you may get 52 heads. If you flip a coin another 100 times, you'll likely get a different count. In fact, sometimes, just by random chance, you may get something like 60 heads and 40 tails. It doesn't really mean that heads is more likely than tails, just a nature of random chance. A sixth potential bias is non-sampling error. This is where the sample is collected poorly, either through a biased sample or through error in measurements. Care should be taken to avoid this error. And as an example of this, let's study a survey question asked in the United States since 2016 presidential election. Russian meddling in the presidential election. Numerous public opinion surveys have sought to measure the public's view on this, and they typically use a phrasing such as, "Do you think Russia interfered in the 2016 election?" Now this seems pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of issues with this wording. So why is this ambiguous? An ambiguous question in a survey results when various people interpret some word or phrase in different ways. So let's take this in order. The word think. Various respondents may require different levels of proof to assert that they think or believe that something in reality happened. Imagine how differently you would respond to the question asked, "Are you certain that Russia interfered with the presidential election?" Russia. So what does Russia mean in this context? The Russian people, the Russian oligarchs, the Russian government? Most respondents likely would interpret this as Vladimir Putin or his operatives, but some would certainly use one of those other options. Interfered. Again, this word is open to interpretation and needs to be viewed in the context of the following prepositional phrase in the 2016 election. How you interpret election affects how you interpret interfered, as we'll see. Again, election. And that's where we have real ambiguity. For some, election means the actual voting process where we cast ballots and tally up the results. Others may view election as including the months-long campaign. And those are pretty different interpretations. So, interfered in the 2016 election could be interpreted as influencing people's views or trying to change the voting results. So, a respondent with a tight definition of election as the voting and vote tallying process could answer no to the question, that Russia interfered, while someone else with a looser definition of election to include the campaign would answer yes. And in this case, both would be right, and both could believe that Russia engaged in nefarious electioneering. Okay. One final bias to talk about for this lesson, significance. So lastly, care must be taken in considering whether the results matter. And as you'll see in future lessons, this is a major issue in statistics. Saying the results of a study are statistically significant means the results are not likely to have come from random chance. However, not likely due to random chance is not the same thing as being meaningful. As an example, suppose you find a new study suppose you find a new drug for high blood pressure that does indeed reduce the blood pressure of patients. When you look at the improvement, it actually doesn't amount to a large difference. Even though statistically there is a change, it may not be worth marketing the product because it really is not that big of a change. Another consideration is that you find the blood pressure medication does improve a person's blood pressure, but it can have some serious side effects or cost a great deal for a prescription. In this case, it wouldn't be practical to use it. In both cases, the study is shown to be statistically significant and that the results are not likely due to random chance, but practically, you don't want to use that medication. The main thing to remember in a statistical study is that statistics is only part of the process. You also want to make sure that there is a practical significance too.